It's great to be joined here on The Colour of Country Life by Gavin Cavanagh, General Manager of Operations at Viterra. Gavin, a very busy time for Viterra at the moment.
Yes, it is, Ricky. Harvest is well and truly in full swing in most areas now.
And when you talk about the, in full swing, over in the west it got started early, but we're seeing some more coming in eastern parts of South Australia now?
Yeah, I'd like to think that we've started in most of our areas, with perhaps the southeast still only really at their very beginning.
All right, and in terms of tonnages that have been coming in, I did notice you had a big sort of 600,000 come in last week. How are we going this week?
Yeah, things are going well for us now, Ricky. We've taken over 1.9 million tonnes into our system, and so far this week, we've taken around that 700,000. We've actually yesterday been our largest receivable day for harvest with over 200,000. This harvest.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I noticed that the PIRSA put out a report this week saying they were expecting, I think from memory, it was 5.5 million tonnes, I guess, in terms of total production. Have you got a figure of what you think you might get during this harvest season?
That's interesting. We're forecasting more for crop production to be upward of 11.5 million tonnes, which would make it the second largest crop in South Australia, sort of just under the 16-17 harvest.
Yeah, I'll have to cross-check that figure, actually, because I was going from memory, but I'll just check that in a moment. But tell us about the infrastructure or the recruitment you've done in terms of being able to handle such a big harvest. I gather from the messages I've seen from Viterra, you've been well prepared for this big one.
Yeah, we have been well prepared. Where it's been required, we've looked to put additional storage in to cope with, in particular in the western and eastern areas where some of the growers were talking to us about potentially sort of record crop production. So where required, we've added additional storage, and we also increased the number of harvest workers that we required to ensure that we can offer and focus on getting growers through our site safely, but also as quick as possible.
Yeah, you bulked at that figure 5.5. What I was getting mixed up, it was a 12.1 is what PIRSA estimated was the million tonnage they were expecting to see. But nationwide, I think ABARE said about 55 million tonnes. So I was getting my decimal point in the wrong place. Now, Gavin, just tell us a bit about grading in terms of the quality of what's coming in. There were some expressions of concern. Farmers felt that they, with all the moisture that's been around, we might see a bit of a downgrade. How has this looked compared to previous seasons?
I would say overall the quality is held up really well. There are what you'd call perhaps isolated or pockets of the area where, depending on whether the grain was ripe at the time, have been a little bit more affected by the late spring rains. So we have pockets of areas that the quality is most probably not what both the grower and us were expecting. But if we look at it overall from a state perspective, the majority of the grain is held up really well, and to date, we've received really good quality grain.
That is fantastic news. Here's a ship or two's already set off from port. How many have gone away as at the early December point where we're talking to you?
We've loaded approximately 4 vessels already, and we have we're actually in the process of loading a couple more as we speak, and we've been able to secure sort of record-breaking 7 million tonne of forward shipping booked by or across 18 different exporters across the Viterra network, which I think from our point of view is a big tick on really the total supply chain, and we're able to encourage strong demand for grower grain out of the Viterra system.
And are you able to say where those ships are heading? Or have you got an idea of what the main markets are where South Australian grain is going?
A lot of South Australian grain in particular does work back into the sort of southeastern market, but then there's also some that will work back into the Middle Eastern market as well.
And lastly, we are talking often on Flow about how long this harvest is going to be in a sense, or delayed at least. It's going to be a challenging Christmas New Year period, I gather, for Viterra staff.
We would expect that, given some areas are only just starting, like the southeast, and also just because of the volume of the harvest, yes, that we would be working into January to still receive our grower grain at some of our major sites based on the production and also the late start to harvest.
Well, we do wish you a very Merry Christmas if we're not speaking with you before then, and everyone working hard through the Christmas season at Viterra. Gavin Cavanagh, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ricky.